This is all Perry's fault. Okay, so experiments, what can go wrong? So there's lots of different things that can go wrong, and we're going to discuss some of that. One thing that we did discuss in class is that we're going to probably have an in-class test next Wednesday and Thursday over chapter 4. Again, there's not too much math in this stuff. It's mostly just vocabulary getting us ready for chapters here on out. And so we're going to finish that up. The one good news, though, I am not going to give you guys a final for this try. Okay? Okay, thank you. And so what we're going to do with that is we'll work on chapter 5, and then we'll see how far we get into chapter 5, and then pick that up into second try. Okay? All right. So let's start with a couple different things. All right. So first of all, we're talking about blinding. Now that doesn't mean we're going to take a hot poker and stick it in somebody's eyes. That's bad. Okay. We're not even going to do that. What blinding means for us in this one, and we'll talk about a little bit more about it here in a second, is that there's some type of not being deceitful, but not telling everybody what are you getting exactly. Yes. Okay. Yep. Twisting the truth a little bit, and then we're going to talk about statistically significant in the context of our experiment. Statistically, yeah. When you're taking your 300, 400 level of statistics, it becomes sadistic. It's not statistics, it's statistics. Okay. So the first thing is, and we've talked about this a couple times in the past lesson, is our placebo effect. So this is just a response from a dummy treatment. Okay, just something that we've always covered, something you probably already know about. I'll bet that video is great when I do that to you guys. Anyway, so it's just something that covers something that happens. A great example of this is if there was an experiment done, and I think it was in Japan. It's in one of the examples in the book. They had the two arms were given were obviously most people have two arms, but anyway, so one leaf was poison ivy, and the other one was just a normal leaf. Okay, and what they did is they took the dummy leaf and they rubbed it here and said that it was poison on their left arm and said it was poison ivy. Then they took a poison ivy leaf and just said that this was a normal leaf, right? So both arms reacted with a rash, but people were scratching the left arm because they said that that one was the poison ivy one, even though the right arm had the poison ivy. So that's a great example of a exactly. And then there's another one real quick. Growing up, watched MASH, right? The Army show, right? There's an episode in there where they have run out of pain medication, and the people are, they had surgery, and so they're trying to give them some pain meds. And so Hawkeye comes up with this idea of taking sugar pills and giving them to him that they're telling him that's an experimental pain med and that they can't give him very many. And so they give him these pills, and the soldiers think that they're getting pain meds, and so their pain level drops. And so that's happened a couple different times. Okay. All right. Now, what we're going to go into next is something called a double blind. And I always think of not bling and bind. Oh my God, let's try that. Third time is the charm. Yay. Whew. All right. Whenever I think of a double blind, I think of a duck blind. I don't know why, because you're not in a double blind in a duck blind. You're just in a blind. But anyway, so the double blind is, I'm just going to give you the formal definition. Neither the subjects nor those who interact with the subjects and measure the response variable. Which treatment a subject receives. All right, so this one, so think of, have you guys seen Wizard of Oz? Okay, and the guy behind the curtain, right? Okay, so basically what's happened is this. Let's say that as a class, we're getting medication on some type of disease that we're all been diagnosed with, okay? COVID, we're all got COVID, we're getting the vaccine, we're seeing if this works, okay? And so what happens is um, the people handing out the medication, say the nurses or even the doctors, all they know is that they've got this little bubble pack and it has a serial number and it looks exactly the same to everybody we're handing it to, okay? And so the serial number is recorded, and then as we come back in and report, we say, well, I feel nauseous, I threw up, I have had suicidal thought, you know, all the things that they come up there, right? And then they just kind of write it down and report it saying on this serial number here, they've had this, right? And so then they send that to the people who gave them the meds, and then what happens is those people open it up, go to their chart, whoever had that serial number, oh, they had the placebo, man, this person's weird. They're saying they're having this, and this, you know, type of thing. Or if they had the real subject and said, I didn't have any ill effects or anything like that, they're like, well, that's good to know. And so that's the double blind, is that we don't know as we're handing it out, and neither do you guys know who's getting what. Okay. Now, there's a difference between that and, of course, your your single blind. And the single blind is just when so it's sorry, how about either the subject or the people interacting with them, or the people interacting with the subject don't know which treatment they're getting. Okay. Now this one, it's a little bit more dangerous. Okay. Because as a doctor or as a nurse, you want the patient to get better, correct? That's your goal. And so the problem is, if you know you're giving, say, a patient that you've built a relationship with, the placebo effect, it kind of plays a little bit more into effect with that person, with that doctor or that nurse, right? Because then you're going, here's your meds, you know, it's kind of playing the effect of you're really not giving them the right treatment, and you feel bad, right? And so a lot of times on the single blind, it becomes more along the people of not telling the doctors what they're giving, and so then therefore the doctors don't know, they can sit there and say, you know, this is a great medication, they can sell it up and everything like that, and it's going to be the same sales pitch for both the placebo and the treatment. And usually it's not going to be yeah, but the thing with the doctors got to do that same sales pitch every time with the same enthusiasm, so not to give it something exactly. Yeah, because if as soon as you start showing bias, then it's going to start, um, yeah, and so it's not going to show that fairness that the double blind's going to do. Okay, so you got to be really, if you ever get the chance to do that in college, you know, it's kind of cool to run an experiment in there. Okay. Um, All right, I'm going to pause it real quick, and then I'll write stuff down and then catch you guys up. So what we're going to look at, so how do we know if our data is statistically significant? basically what you'll get to know is that you get to learn how to do it later. So mathematically, we're going to cover that later because we don't have our tests figured out yet. There's a couple other things we got to do before we can do that mathematically, okay? Now, for right now, this is really technical terms here, the value is going to be either really, really, really large or really, really, really small, that it would rarely happen by chance alone, okay? So that means that your numbers, when it says, is this number statistically significant, it's going to show us that it is really, really large, or it's going to be really, really small, and it's going to be outside your data range, okay? So for an example, if we get an R value of 0.9999, right, that's statistically significant because that's 99% chance, right? Or you could do your R squared. Those are really the only things you can really, really count on right now, okay? All right. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to pause this video, and we're going to try doing this. We're going to try this both doing it online and in class, okay? So we're going to do something called the distracted driving activity. And I'd like for you to get a book, and I'll get you guys caught up. If you guys don't have a book at home, I will